So thank you so much for your time and willingness to be interviewed today. I would like to go ahead and tell you the purpose of this interview is to so the purpose of the interview is going to be to understand how graduate students in an online doctoral program in educational leadership experiences and manages work-life balance, and they navigate the demands of academic, work, and professional responsibilities and their personal life while taking classes at ETSU. So I just want to make sure you're okay with this is being recorded, and I will have to submit this to my professor. Are you good with that?
Absolutely. Thank you for letting me know.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so this is also voluntary, so any questions you don't want to answer, or if you want to stop at any time, you are free to do so.
Absolutely. Thank you for going over my informed consent.
So the first question is, tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Molly Rutledge. I'm originally from Asheville, North Carolina. I live in Chilhowie, Virginia now. I taught special education for 8.5 years, and I am currently I currently lead the education rehabilitation program at Southwestern Virginia Mental Health Institute.
What led you to choose an online doctoral program in educational leadership?
I started with the scholarship before I looked at the program, and so I was made aware of a scholarship called RIDICE, and I applied and was accepted to that program. And so for me, the choice to pursue an online doctoral program at ETSU was a financial one.
Okay. Can you describe a typical week in your life as a doctoral student?
Thank you. That's a really good question. So I work full time, 12 months out of the year. And so 8.5 hours of my day are spent at work. Then I go home I'm at home around 5, and I try to make sure that that time between 5 and 9 is dedicated to whatever my kids are doing. And so that's running one to football practice, art, playing in the yard, but I try to make sure I'm not doing anything other than what the kids are doing at that time. And then I run a program in the community the first Thursday of every month. So sometimes, that takes up my time, but my kids go to that. And then any coursework that I have, I work on that after my kids fall asleep. And they have a hard time falling asleep. So I'm usually doing coursework between like midnight, 2 a.m. And that's probably about 3 days out of the week. That's my schedule. And then if I have a big assignment, usually I'm scheduling an all-nighter for myself in order to get that done, just so I can get it done without impacting what's going on with my family.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell me a story about a time when balancing your academic, professional, and personal responsibility felt extremely difficult?
That's a really good question. I've definitely gotten better about it. I think recently, this semester especially, I think I finally did, sort of learn how to balance it. The first semester, I recall, I missed a meeting with my professor, and I needed to either pick up my kids from a grandparent or something. And I messed up both things. I forgot about the meeting and I forgot I was supposed to pick up the kids. And I just remember crying, thinking that I was, the world's biggest failure because I couldn't manage all of it. And it probably took me a couple months to get over, and I still don't think I'm over it, but that feeling of failure just like lingered like a slow boil for a long time.
Okay. Have there been any moments when you felt successful in managing everything, and what made that possible?
Absolutely. So this weekend we had an assignment due. My partner and I accidentally had the wrong deadline when we were setting up our personal deadline for how we were going to get it done. And my husband has just switched to 12-hour shifts. So that was a big change for us. And so on Friday, on the 4th of July, I was able to stay completely focused with everything that was going on with my family, realizing that, the next day was going to be stressful, but I just need to be present and, good time, Charlie, like I usually am on the 4th. So then the day of the 5th, my husband was working, so I had the kids by myself. And so entertained them all day. We just played, was very focused and intentional with them, and then stayed up the entire night from Friday the 5th until the morning of Saturday, and got everything turned in and submitted. And so it was a lot of work, but to me that felt like success because nobody knew that I was under that kind of pressure. I was able just to take a deep breath and focus on you'll get it done when they're asleep.
Gosh.
So,
okay. What strategies or support have helped you maintain balance?
okay. So probably the biggest thing was taking extreme ownership of my choice to do this program and not wanting that stress to bleed on to anybody else. So, for example, I decided that, occasionally doing homework or working on an assignment in front of my kids is a good thing because they see you, working at this age toward a degree, and it maybe makes it seem possible. But, that decision to work after they went to bed and just to make that part of my schedule for the next 4 years, I think was really, that was a really good strategy for me. I have a really good relationship with my chair for my dissertation. And I think that that relationship has definitely helped when times get tough, because I could quit for myself, but I can't quit on her, So it can be really hard, I think, as a first generation college student, because I was a first generation undergrad. So, being the first generation doc, I could quit and nobody would care. And so I had to get to a place where I realized, well, I would care, and so I want to finish what I started and kind of model that for my kids. So I think that frame of mind has been really helpful. I use a planner. I use a handwritten planner. Having relationships with my classmates where I can reach out and double check and say, hey, is this when this is due? Are you reading this the same way? That's been really important. So having a means to contact them in a more casual way, just sending a text to make sure that you're on the same page has been really helpful. And there's probably more strategies that I am, forgetting, but the real doing my homework at night has really been that's been the biggest one.
Okay. How has your experience with work-life balance changed over time during your doctoral journey?
It's a lot better now. I think when I first started, I knew what I was getting myself into, but I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I really had to make coursework a priority. So I had to limit a lot of these other things that I was doing, in the community, and kind of trim my life down to, work, kids, school. And so I would consider myself a social butterfly. I don't like to be alone at all. But one of the things that I have noticed is that my social life has dwindled to basically the bare minimum. So that's one way that I've noticed that it's changed.
Okay. How do you think being in an online program has shaped your experience with balancing it in a positive or negative way?
I definitely think online in terms of work-life balance has been more positive, especially when things are asynchronous, where I need to get things done at night because that's what works for me and my family. I wouldn't have that opportunity if it was in person. If it were in person, I just wouldn't I wouldn't choose to do that. It wouldn't make sense for me.
Okay. How has juggling all of these responsibilities impacted your mental health, motivation, or identifying you as a leader?
So I think initially there was a negative impact, and I think it kind of rocked my self-worth. I realized very quickly that I tied my entire self-worth into the amount of responsibilities that I was able to do successfully in the course of a week. And when you're doing so many things, at some point you're gonna fail at some of them. And so in that failing and that kind of digging through, like, who am I as a person? Why did these things tear me up so terribly? If I make a little mistake, I felt like other people were able to handle it, and it just, tore me up maybe more than others. I really had to dive into like what was causing that feeling, and then how was I going to fix that in order to move forward, because you can't lead programs and I'm not going to be able to advance my career if things like that are tearing me up. I had to find grace for myself that I was giving other people. And so that was like a hard fought journey, probably up until this semester. I feel like I'm in a good place where, like it gave me an opportunity to kind of dig through what was wrong to build supports and strategies to be able to manage that moving forward.
Thank you. What advice would you give to someone just starting this program who's worried about that work-life balance?
I would say not to expect it to be balanced. You're going to survive the day. It's like eating an elephant. You're going to do the best you can with what is right in front of you at that moment. Make a schedule, I would say, is a good one. But if these programs attract students who are typically very high achieving, who are used to getting projects turned in early. They're used to having, every single thing checked off on the rubric, and trying to accomplish that and be perfect at this stage of your life with this many responsibilities. It's not the same as being a college freshman when I worked full time as a college freshman, but it's still not the same, because your focus, if you have kids or, all the responsibilities you end up having in your 30s, it's too much for any one person to do perfectly. And so like the learning to give grace to yourself, it's going to happen one way or another. So you're either going to be graceful to yourself, or, it's going to be forced upon you via the program. So that would be my advice: just take it one day at a time, and don't expect it to be balanced, because it's not going to be. It's going to be crazy, and you get done what you need to do that day, and that's it.
That's very good advice. Is there anything else you would like to share about your experience that we haven't covered?
I think I'm in a unique position as a first-time college student, as a first generation college student, to have gone, all the way into a doc program. And so, and also, not having parents, so when you don't have someone to kind of help guide you and really sort of understand this experience, I think it makes it almost that much harder to finish it successfully, because there's a lot more on you. You're not sharing that burden with other people. And so in my case, connecting with faculty was really important. And so what I would say to someone that, especially coming from that, really unique experience, is that if you don't have your own people that have been through it, you're going to need to find those people and trust those people to help guide you, because they really do have your best interest long term at heart, even though it can be hard to see sometimes.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. If there are any follow-up questions, would you be okay with me reaching back out to you in the future?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your time.